Hello, this is David, your host from Universal Truth of Mankind. This is a show about all of us. It's for all of us. And you can find us at utom.org. utom.org. Last week I put out a video in which I tried to summarize my course change. And I used Rosh Hashanah as a backdrop for that because they coincided. And I put a lot of information into that video that is well worth unpacking. So I'm going to start doing that right now. But what I'm going to do before I start talking about acknowledging God, I want to give you a little more information about why I'm going this direction. I am a life coach. I do life coaching with certification from which is Authentic Happiness, from a very well known author. I have helped many people doing life coaching. If anyone's interested, please feel free to contact me. However, I noticed or observed, I didn't do a very scientific study, so please don't misunderstand me. But I've noticed that when I dealt with life coaching, if the person was very mind-body oriented, they had success. Because that's exactly what life coaching is all about. The well-being of your body and mind. When one perfects or enhances their well-being, both physically and mentally, you create a almost an unbeatable combination. And I've seen people transform their lives as a result of it. And what's also interesting is very scientific in its approach, very scientific, backed up by science, something called positive psychology, which is a true psychology. There is psychology and positive psychology. There's a difference between the two, but there are two pieces, or two halves of a whole. So as I've done these, I started realizing, and also operating at a spiritual level with people, I find that some of my clients wanted more. They really wanted not only a body-mind picture, but they wanted a body-mind-soul. Body, mind, God type of a package. And so I started reflecting on that. And I read a lot of books, especially about Hasidics. And the Hasidics, and even the first 5 books of the Bible, it's called the Torah, you can see God's playing positive psychology with people. And Hasidics were very big in this. Schneerson was another one, very big into positive psychology. They didn't know what it was called, but that's what they were doing. So why do I bring this up? I bring this up because I'm trying to show you that there's more to this universe than simply body and mind. Although we live in a world that is constantly focused on body and mind, the reality is there's more than just body and mind. And I found it very peculiar. I read a book called Happier, with a question mark. And I found that positive psychology recognizes there's a soul. But they don't define it and they don't deal with it. And the reason they don't is because they feel that's more of a religious, institutional should be handling that matter, and also one's own experience. I can't disagree. It's a good point. But that's where I started putting together that there is a body, mind, and a soul that need to be acknowledged. So now that I settled that, and I'll go into more detail in the future on this, but what I really want to do is now explain really what's the first step to be done to start making that happen. And the first step is to realize or simply acknowledge that the Creator exists. If we look at the world from a hierarchical manner, eventually everything leads up to a point. Everything leads up to an ultimate thing, something. There's always an ultimate. Everything goes up to an ultimate. Like a huge triangle, everything eventually filters up to an origin. And that's what we're after. And the best way to do that is don't look for a name. Don't look for something physical, or even something that is beyond the mental capacity of ourselves. And that is the Creator. You simply have to acknowledge the Creator exists. I'll give you an example in your very own Bible. Anyone could read this. I'm doing this a little bit on the fly here, so that's why I don't have this already open. But if we were to go to Exodus chapter 20, that's where the Ten Commandments are given. Verse 2. So many don't realize this, but verse 2 is the first commandment. And it's understood why many don't think it is. I'll read it for you. I am the Lord thy God, who brought thee out of the land of Egypt and out of the house of bondage. Now, most people would look at that and go, that's interesting. Think it's about this a little bit. Now, when we start thinking about this a little more, what happens? I am the Lord thy God. Wait a minute. This is a statement. Exactly. It's not a command, it's a statement. So, I am the Lord thy God who brought you out of the land of Egypt. Now, what does this mean? Bringing you out of Egypt means out of bondage. Okay? You're being given liberties. You've been given freedoms. But what's the freedom from? The next part of the passage tells us, and it says, out of the house of bondage. In Hebrew thought, a house, a tent, is a place of learning. So whenever you see a house or a tent being mentioned, such as like Joseph being in a tent, it's a place of learning. They were homeschoolers back then. There was no college. There was no trade school. If you wanted to trade, well, you would say, okay, I want to be a widget maker. Then I had to join and work for somebody who makes widgets. And I may be there for a few years or almost a lifetime, learning the trade. And then I can say I am a widget maker. So a house of bondage is, how does a house become a bondage to you? How does a place of learning become a bondage to you? Well, it's talking about vain philosophies. So the places that they were learning their religions from, they were released from. So they didn't have to follow their religion, or a religion of the Egyptians. So by simply acknowledging the Creator exists, not trying to put a picture on it, not trying to establish its shape, size, form, but simply acknowledging, frees you from the bondage of vain philosophies. Now, philosophy can also be religion. Religion can be a philosophy. Okay, so I don't necessarily mean religion per se, but whatever you religiously identify with or follow is a religion. Okay, so you could be an atheist and be religious. So see what I mean? It's a more general. So we need to simply acknowledge the Creator exists. Why is this important? And I keep hitting on the same, general points. Because when we acknowledge the Creator exists, then everything else falls in place behind it. We're making an absolute. We may not understand the absolute point, and we can't understand it, but we can simply acknowledge it exists. And that opens us up to think of the Creator in a much broader spectrum of thought, ideas. And when you do that, you can start learning from everything and anything. You can look at nature and learn. You can look at other people watcher. So I love doing that. You can learn. You can read books, and you start saying, wait a minute, this book says that book says this, and over here it's that, and I read this about this, and da-da-da, and wait a minute, they're all related. And then all of a sudden you start slowly triangulating. Let me explain what triangulation is. If you have, this is used in trying to find somebody. Someone's lost and they got a radio. One person would say, okay, I hear the signal. It's coming from this direction. Person here says it's from this direction. Person here says it's from this direction. You put two together, and now you know where they are. They're where these 2 points meet. That's called triangulating. And that's used very successfully in search and rescue. SAR, S-A-R, search and rescue. As long as more than one person listening to the radio frequency from two different locations, they can find a third location. So what happens is, over time, you start triangulating, getting closer and closer and closer to understanding the Creator. Not in its fullness, but in its revelation to you. And this is what's very important to understand. Who the Creator is to you may not be who the Creator is to another person. If you try to teach somebody else to believe what you believe, you lost it. We all have our beliefs that are developed through our understandings, through our experiences, and through our purpose in life. And in order to tap into this and to reveal this to yourself, you need to just simply acknowledge the Creator exists. Because if you don't do that, you're going to have preconceived notions. You're going to have, or I should say we are going to have our programming tell us who and what God is. But God is greater than that. The Creator is greater than that. So we have to get out of that framework. We have to get out of the house of bondage. So it's right there. In the open. It's there. Genesis chapter 20, verse 2. Is the one to look at. So, if you like this video, please share it. Please comment. Please like it. I really do feel that people need to hear this message. They really need to hear that there's a non-religious way to connect to the Creator. Everybody, have a great evening, a great day. And I look forward to doing new videos soon. Take care. Peace to you all.